Hello everyone, welcome back to this video. So from this video we are going to start a new tool, that is Power BI. So first of all, in this video we are going to basically introduce ourselves with this Power BI tool. We are going to understand the basics of this tool and why it is used. So let's start. When you heard of the word Power BI, the first question that comes to your mind is, what is Power BI? So a simple answer is, it is a business intelligence tool. Now if you want to explore that what is a business intelligence tool, then what we can do is simply go to Google and try to Google Power BI. So when I googled Power BI, the results that I got are over here. Power BI is a business analytics service that is provided by Microsoft. It aims to provide interactive visualizations and business intelligence capabilities with an interface that is simple enough for end users to create their own reports and dashboards. In simple terms, we can understand that Power BI is actually a tool that is given to us by Microsoft itself. Now Power BI helps us to get the data from various sources, the raw data, and then it gives us an interface through which we can visualize that data in the form of the reports and dashboards. So why do we need that? We need to actually visualize the data because we all know that nowadays most of the companies focus on the data generated by the customers, and they want to analyze that data to know everything about the customers or their clients. So whenever we try to visualize that data in the form of reports or dashboards, then it becomes easier for anyone to take a look on that data and analyze that. So Power BI is just the tool for that purpose, that it takes up the raw data, it cleans it, visualizes it, and then gives us a full-fledged report that what is happening in that data. Now, if we talk about the components of Power BI, then there are 4 basic components, and these components only help us to perform the necessary actions on the data. These 4 components are the Power Query. So Power Query is the first component. It is used to clean the data. So whenever we are talking about a data from a raw data source, which means it could be in the form of a table, that is a structured data or a semi-structured data, or could be even a no structured data. So whenever we are talking about raw data, it is very much possible that the data that we have can contain some blank records, can contain some null values or duplicate records. So we do not want our analysis to go wrong because of all these things. That is why the first step in Power BI is the use of Power Query, which helps us to clean the data so that the data is actually in the form that could be analyzed effectively without affecting the results. First of all, we need to clean the data. We need to remove the blank values, null values, and the duplicate values. Then the next step or the next component of Power BI is Power Pivot. Power Pivot helps us to model the data. Suppose we are getting a data from various sources, from multiple sources, then that data needs to be modeled perfectly. We need to find out the relationship between these different data sources so that they can be connected together with the help of that relation, and then they could be joined together to give a common report. This is the work of the second component of Power BI, which is known as Power Pivot. After modeling the data and finding out the relation between the data, our next step is to visualize that data. That is, how can we actually represent that data in a visual format that could be understood by all the other people. So for this purpose, the third component of Power BI, that is the Power View, is used. It is used to visualize the data, maybe in the form of a chart, in the form of a graph, in the form of a dashboard, or in the form of a report. Another advantage that we get here with Power BI is that we get multiple forms through which we can actually visualize our data. There are around 280 types of charts available to us in Power BI, which could be simple bar chart, pie chart, donut chart, to many more complex types of charts as well. Also, with the help of a dashboard templates, we can actually represent the data in a dashboard format as well. Now, after our data is visualized or a report is generated based upon the data, then the next important component is to share that data. Once you have visualized your data, you want to share your data with many other people. So this is possible with the fourth component of Power BI, and this component is known as the Power BI service. So Power BI service enables us to share data with multiple people. It doesn't matter if the person is sitting over here or somewhere on the other part of the globe. You can easily share your data with the help of this tool. Now, if we talk about the features of Power BI, that why do we need to study Power BI and not any other software? So the first feature that comes to our mind is its search volume. Search volume is basically the data we have taken through Google. So Google is one of the leading search engines in the world, and that's why we have taken the Google data. Now, if we just try to show that data, then here is actually a report from Google Trends itself, in which we have compared the data for past 5 years of the whole world, in which we have searched the two terms, that is Power BI and its competing software, that is the Tableau software. So if you just look at this graph, you will find out that this line, red line, is for Tableau and this blue line is for Power BI. If we talk about Tableau, then in the earlier in the beginning, that is in the year 2015, it was increasing. But if we talk about the current trends, which is around over here, that is August 16 to 22 in 2020, the searching popularity of Tableau has decreased over time. While if we talk about Power BI, then you can see that this blue line is increasing rapidly, and over here you can see that there is a considerable difference between the popularities of Tableau and Power BI softwares. So this is one of the most important reasons that is why Power BI is preferred, because the people all over the world are talking more and more about Power BI than Tableau. If we talk about some other features of Power BI, then it provides us maximum features, such as it gives us a large variety of templates for charts. Around 280 charts are supported by it, and there are many other features that you will obviously learn later in the tutorial that helps us to make our task very easy. If we talk about the cost of Power BI, then you will find that Power BI is very cheap as compared to other softwares. Some of the features of Power BI are available at free of cost, so you do not need to worry much about the cost in case of Power BI. If we talk about data connection, then Power BI enables that around from 100 sources we can just take up the data. We can take data from all the Microsoft Office tools like Microsoft Excel. We can take data from PDF, from CSV format, from the web directly. We can take from Microsoft Access database, and there are many more databases. You can just name it and you will be able to import your data source from that particular software into Power BI. This is the power that helps us to actually take up the data from various sources in their own format and use it or visualize it using Power BI. Then the next feature is trust. Power BI is a product of Microsoft itself, which gives us a sense of trust, because Microsoft itself is a leading company, and it gives us a sense of trust that we are actually using the right software and our data is secure, because data is the currency of the 21st century. So it is very important that you must trust the company or the product in which you are actually using your data, and Power BI gives us just that. So how Power BI works? Power BI actually works in two parts. First is the Power BI desktop, and the second is the Power BI service. If we talk about Power BI desktop, so Power BI desktop is a software that you need to install in your computer, and it would carry out all of your tasks. that is whatever the data cleaning, data visualization tasks are there, it would be done with the help of Power BI desktop. If you want to generate reports, if you want to create a dashboard, then Power BI desktop is your weapon. But what happens when you want to share your data with many other people all around the globe? Then the second component, that is Power BI service, is used for this purpose. Power BI desktop is used to generate reports, but to share those reports with others, Power BI service is used. If we talk about Power BI desktop, then it is completely free. It can be downloaded very easily from the official website of Power BI. How can you download this Power BI desktop? It is what I'm going to show you. So to download it, what you need to do is simply you need to go to this URL. So this is this URL, powerbi.microsoft.com/desktop, and this URL would help you to download Power BI. So what is all the download process and the installation instructions that you need to follow for downloading Power BI? It is what we are going to cover in the next video. Thanks for watching. Welcome back to the tutorial course in Power BI. In the previous video, we familiarized ourselves with the Power BI software and tried to understand that why Power BI is so important. In this video, we are going to see that how can we install Power BI for ourselves, and then we are going to familiarize ourselves with its interface. Now, Power BI has a very simple interface, so if you have worked on any of the previous Microsoft tools like Microsoft Excel, then you won't be facing any problems because its interface is very simple and very similar to the Microsoft Excel interface, but still we are going to familiarize ourselves with it. So welcome back, and let's start that how can we install Power BI. So this is the URL that you need to follow to make sure that you need to install Power BI correctly on your desktop. The software that we are going to install is actually Power BI desktop. The reason why we are installing Power BI desktop is because Power BI desktop enables us to actually perform all the operations on the data like cleaning, visualizing, and then generating reports based upon that data. So once you are on this URL, you will find that this is the download free option. If you just click on it, then you can download it, or this is the second option, this also you can choose. But if you click on download free option, then it would open Microsoft Store. So I have already opened Microsoft Store over here, and Power BI is actually a Microsoft application. That is why it is available in Microsoft Store itself. And here you can see that where launch is written in my PC, you will see install option. So you need to click on that install option, and it would take some time to install depending upon your internet speed, and then it will actually configure itself according to your system specifications, and then you would be able to launch Power BI. So since in my computer Power BI is already installed, that is why I'm getting this launch option. So either you can follow these steps, or what you can do is you can go to this second option, see download or language options. Once you click on it, you will get this tab in front of you. So here what you have an option is you can select different languages and you want to change the contents of Power BI. So these are all these languages that are supported by Power BI, which is an added advantage. That is, you can use it in your own native language instead of English. But whichever language you want, you can just select that language from here, and then you can just click on download, and Power BI will be downloaded in that particular language. One added advantage of using a Power BI software is that it updates itself every month. So every month there are some new updates that are available to you with the Power BI, and with those updates you can easily just make yourself up to date with whatever is going on in the industry. Now since Power BI is already installed on my PC, so I'm going to just launch it. So when you just open Power BI, you are going to see this kind of a screen. If you want to sign up, you can just simply sign up over here. I'm going to skip the sign up process right now, and I'm going to come back directly to my Power BI software. This is actually the very simple interface of Power BI. So we need to first familiarize ourselves with this interface. If you see that this interface is having these different kinds of tabs and these ribbons, which is similar to the Microsoft Excel or any of the Microsoft tools that we have seen coming with the Microsoft Office package. Then there is this file option, which is also very similar to all the Microsoft Office tools. So this is similar. Now the new things that we have over here is actually this filters pane, visualizations pane, and the fields pane. If we talk about these panes, then right now visualizations pane is something that is to be addressed primarily, and this visualization pane has these different types of charts. So this is actually a small sample of the charts that are available for use in Power BI. And if you just click on these three dots, you will get more visuals option, so which means you can obviously get more and more visuals in Power BI, but for that you need to sign in. So I'm just going to skip. For the beginners course that we are going to discuss, these types of visuals are going to be sufficient, but if you want to add more visuals, I will tell you later on that how can you add these more visuals. Then after the visuals have been added, you can obviously apply some filters, you can search for fields. Apart from that, if you go to the home tab in Power BI, you have this data group. In this data group, the first option is get data option. So here you will get these common data sources. So these are actually the data sources from where you can import your data in Power BI. So actually there are 100 of data sources. So if you just click on more, then you will get a dialog box in which all the data sources are listed. So these data sources would help you to get the data. Suppose you want to get data from Microsoft Excel, which is actually a version or a product of Microsoft itself. You can get data from Excel. If you want from a CSV file, you can get from that, XML, JSON, from folder, PDF, SharePoint, SQL Server, Access, Oracle, IBM, MySQL, and so many other things. Here you can see like Impala, Snowflake, Azure, everything is there. Obviously you can get it from Power BI datasets as well. And you can just see that how many data sources are available to you. Here you can see Spark, Web, OData Feed, SharePoint, R script, Python script, ODBC, OLE database, and like this. You can see there are these multiple options available from wherever you want. You can get a data for yourself. Okay, so this is this added advantage, and there are these options available. You can check these options as well from a file if you want from a database, you want from a Power Platform, that is actually the Power BI platform itself, from Azure. You can get the data from the online services as well, from the other sources as well, like Web, SharePoint, Spark, Hadoop, etc. Apart from this, if you want to extract the data from commonly used data sources like Excel, Power BI dataset, SQL Server, etc., you can just get it. Then there is this recent sources tab. This is available in my PC because I have been installing or importing some of the data. So this is a sample data. So if I click on that, this would be connecting itself to that sample data source which I have already imported previously in Power BI. So that is another advantage, that Power BI keeps the memory of what you have actually taken or imported in the previous versions, and that would help you. Suppose these are all these tables and I want to just import the sales order table. So once you click on any of the tables, this is the preview of the table that you will get. This is whole data source that you would be getting. So if you want some other table, like say instructions table, so instructions table is there. Then there is this table 1, you can get that as well. So whichever table you want, its preview would be available. I want sample sales orders table to be imported. Then what you can do is, first of all, you need to know one thing, that whether your data is clean or not. Right now my data is clean, so this table is completely clean. It is not containing any of the null records, any of the blank values or duplicate values. I have purposely imported this clean data, so because in the upcoming lessons we are going to work with the clean data, and later on we are going to see that how can we actually clean the data if it is an unclean data. So since your data is clean, you can just directly click on this load option. Otherwise, if you want to clean your data first, then there is this transform data option which you can use. So I'm going to click on this load option because my data is already clean and I know that. So what would it do once you click on load is it would take some time to load that data into your Power BI. So you can see that some of the changes. I'm going to just stop right there because I don't want the changes to be applied. I don't want any changes in my database. So it may take some time. Like here you can see it is importing the data. Okay, so now our data is imported, and once your data is imported, you can see all of these fields are available, which were the fields of the sales order table. So let's just create a very simple chart to say that how it works. So suppose I want to create a stacked column chart. Let's just bring it here. You need to drag that particular visual that you want to use, or you can just double click on it and that visual would be available for you. Okay. Now the thing is, you want to add some fields. So here, as soon as you add a visual, this thing changes. You have an axis, your legend, values and tooltips. So in the axis, I want to drag this items field. So from the fields, you can simply drag the items into the axis fields. And this total, I want to drag in the value field. So what would happen is, it would take some time and you will get all the items sold, like binders, you have pen sets, pencils, pens and desks sold by the number of items. Right now it is very small, but if you want to just increase its size, then you can do that as well. So it is all a part of data manipulation or visualization manipulation, which we are going to see in the next video. This is all for today's video, in which we learned about installing the Power BI. We learned about its simple interface and how can we create a chart after importing a data. So that's all for this video, and thanks for watching. Hello everyone, welcome back to this Power BI tutorial. In this video, we are going to see that how can we import the data from an Excel data source in Power BI. Then using that data, we are going to create a clustered column chart. Then we are going to see that how can we just change the way this chart looks through Power BI. And then we are going to see that how can we create the different types of charts in Power BI. So all this is going to be covered in this video, so make sure that you watch it till the end. So let's start with the video, and the first thing we are going to do is actually import our data from an Excel data source. In the previous video, we also used an Excel data source, but what we did was we used this recent sources option because we had already used some of this data source previously. That's why it was available in the recent tab and we used it. But since you all are beginners, so it is very much possible that you are using this Power BI for the first time, so your recent tab would be empty. In that case, how can you just import the data into your Power BI is what we are going to see. Since we have already made up our mind that from where we want to import our data, and that is an Excel sheet. So first of all, you need to make sure a clear image in your mind that from where you are going to import your data. Okay, so once you've got that, you can check for that option present over here. Since Excel is present, I can just click on Excel over here. But if you do not find your desired data source over here, you can just go to this get data, click on this down arrow, and you will get a bunch of more options that are used widely. If you are not satisfied with them, then you can just go to this more options and there would be a ton of other options available to you. Okay, so I'm simply going to click on Excel. Then what happens is I have got this sample data, and then when you click on Excel or any of the data source, it would open up a folder from where you can just go to your desired place. This is exactly the place where I wanted to end up. So this is my sample data, and I'm just going to select it and click on open. Now it may take some time depending upon the size of your data to get it loaded into Power BI. Now once it's loaded, you can just go to sales orders, and this is a table actually that is present in my Excel data sheet. So I have just loaded it here, and one interesting thing to note is the data that I have loaded is a super clean data. There are no empty records, there are no null values, and there are no duplicate records. Purposely I've loaded up because we do not want our data to get cleaned right now, because it is a somewhat tiring process. So you need to be well versed with some of the concepts before going into that part. So make sure you are getting a clean data, and a good method for that is you can simply go to the internet and download any of the sample data sources. Okay, I have myself downloaded it from the internet. So you can just click on this table which you want to load, and you can just click on this load button because our data is clean. So you can click on load. Then again it may take some time because it is loading that data source into the Power BI. So it may take some time, and you must see like these kind of things coming up. And the larger your data source, the more time it's going to take. Okay, so now you can just close this warning message. We will understand it later on. So once your data is loaded, in the fields column you can see all these fields present. Okay, so now what we are going to do is we are going to create a clustered column chart. So in the visualizations pane, you can see the second chart. Actually we are going to create a stacked column chart instead of a clustered one. You can create basically any chart, so we are going with a stacked column chart. Okay, so whichever visualizations you want to create, you can simply click on it, and what happens is there is a sample of this visualization available in your Power BI. Okay, now you can just change its size, but it's going to be of no use because there are no fields in it. So we gotta just get some fields into this axis, legend, and the values. So the axis I'm going to get region. In the legend I'm going to get items, and the total I'm going to get in the values. Let's see what happens. Perfect. So what we are getting over here is a stacked column chart, which is stacked on the basis of the regions with the different items, and their values have been shown over here, right? So this is actually not visible correctly. So what you got to do if you want to show it in the full screen, there is something given as a focus mode over here. If you just hover to the top right of the chart, just beside the filter option, there is this focus mode. If you just click on this focus mode, then what happens is this chart would be fitted on the screen perfectly. And what else you can do is you just collapse these visualizations and the fields pane, and this chart would be then much more bigger and much more easier to work upon. If you can just look at this chart, what you make out is there is these three regions, the central, east, and the west region, and there are these numbers given, that is how many quantities of the items were sold. And these different items are actually denoted by these different colors, like binders with blue, desk with dark blue, pencils with pink, pen set with purple, and pen with a shade of orange. So if you just hover over any of these colors, what you get is some information, like it is of a central region, the item name is pencil, and the total quantity as well. So these two things, pencil and central, we can just make out from the fact that it is a part of the central, and the pencil, the color is pink, but the amount, that is 1540.32, is what we are going to see with the help of this information. Okay, so this is actually the default settings, but what if you want to change the appearance? How can you do? So this is this visualizations pane present from where you can just change the appearance or the way your chart looks. Okay, so how can you do that? First of all, you need to come out of the focus mode. So once you are in your focus mode, how can you come out of it? There is this back to report option. You can just click on it and it would be back into the normal thing that it was previously, and you can again see this focus mode option once again. So if you again want to go to the focus mode, you can simply click on this option and you would be taken to the focus mode once again. Now what we are going to do is change the way this chart looks. So for that, in the visualizations pane, there is the second option available, which is kind of a paintbrush option. This is actually a format option. So if you go to it, you will see these different options, and using these different options you can actually customize the way your chart is looking. Suppose if you want to go to the data tables, and you can just click on, then what happens is, let's again go to the focus mode to have a better understanding. You are getting all these data labels like 1.5k, 2.4k, 0.5k, 0.9k, 5.8k, which is actually the round off value of the thing that it is representing. Like in the central region, 5762 binders were sold. So what we are getting is 5.8k as a rounded off figure, which helps us to understand it in a better way. Okay, then what happens is, suppose you go to this x-axis. If you just expand this x-axis, then you can just change the color. Right now it's gray, you can just change it to black, and then also you can increase the text size. You see, as I'm increasing this text size, I want 13, actually 16. Okay, 16 is good. This is east, west and central have increased in the size, but that's too much. So I'm going to just keep it at around 13. That's perfect. You can change the font family. You can just change the minimum category width, maximum size, padding, everything you can change, whatever you want. Okay. And that's the title. So you can just change the size of the title as well. That would change the size of this region thing. So I'm going with 15 points or 16 points. That's perfectly fine. This was for the x-axis. If you want for the y-axis, you can do the same as well. Like you can just change its position. Right now it's shown on the left. If you want to show it on the right, now it is present on the right, but that's kind of odd. So let's go back to this left. You can always change all these things, like the size. I'm going to just increase it to around a 13. All right. And then this title also, I'm going to just increase its size to around a 15 or a 16 for a better understanding. 16 is fine. Then the third option that we have is for the legend, where you want to show your legend. Right now their position is at top, but if you want to change it to anything like bottom, you can change it to left. You can change it to anything, like you want it on the right. Yeah, that looks good for me. And then what is the name of the legend or the title that you want to give? Item is perfectly fine. You can just change its color to say black. You can just increase or decrease its size. I'm going to just increase it a little bit to around 13 or 14. Yeah. And in the general also, there is some kind of options available. All this, especially this alternative text. So it is actually kind of a description that would be visible along with this chart. So I'm just not going to add it, but if you want, you can just add your alternative text. And then there is this background option. If you want, you can just change the background color of your chart as well. Suppose I want to go with this shade of yellow. Then what happens is this chart's background color is changed to a shade of yellow. You can just increase or decrease the transparency like this. So basically, whatever formatting you want to apply, you can just apply using the visualizations pane. This is this format tab, which you can use for this purpose. Okay. So using these options, these are actually pretty self-explanatory options. You would want to explore them much more on your own to see that how you can change the look of your charts. So this is all for the Power BI video today, and thanks for watching. Everyone, welcome to the next video in the Power BI tutorial. In this video, we are going to see that how can we create different types of charts in Power BI? Now the process of chart creation in Power BI is very simple, and it is the same steps that you need to follow for each and every chart to get created. There is nothing extra effort that you want to pick it up into those charts. It is a very simple process to create literally any kind of chart that you want in Power BI with the minimum efforts. So this was the chart that we created in the previous video. In this video, we are going to create different types of charts. The first type we are going to create is known as the donut chart. So first of all, let's click on this back to report option. What would it do is it would just adjust the position of this chart into the screen, and then you can see that there are these different pages available. So page 1 is where we have this chart right now. Page 2 is an extra page which is currently blank. So if you want, you can just add any number of pages that you want in Power BI. This is similar to adding like sheets in Microsoft Excel. So if you just click on this plus button, you can add any number of pages that you want. Okay. So in page 2, what I'm going to do is create a new chart. So we know to create a new chart, we need to go to this visualizations pane. And first of all, we need to make sure that what type of chart we want to create. So we want to create a donut chart. So for that, you can just go to this donut chart and you can click on it. So this donut chart is now available for creation. Then you can just expand this fields option. We are going to drag this item thing into legend, and the total we are going to drag into the values. Now what would happen is a sample donut chart is created like this. Okay. And if you want, you can just expand it like this for a better view, or simply what you can do is just make it of its original size and go to this focus mode. This focus mode will automatically just expand it into the size or into the position which is fitting into the screen. Now here from the donut chart, what we can do is we can format it like we did in the previous chart, that was the stacked column chart. If you want to format anything for the donut chart, what you can do is go to this format options, and what options all you can format is suppose you want actually this is showing the value and the percentage of the item, but it is not showing the name. Like we know that blue color is noted by binders, so this blue thing is of binders only, but we are not sure about that. We want it to be shown over here. So what we can do is we can go to this detail label, we can just expand it, and in the label style we can just choose all detail labels. So what would happen is we would get the name of the item, its value and its percentage. If you want, you can just change its color. Suppose I want this shade of black for a better view. You can change its text size like this. I want to increase it. That's perfectly fine. Okay. Then we have data colors. So these are these different colors for like binder, pen set, pencil, desk and pen. If you want to choose any other color, you can simply just toggle it. Suppose I want this shade of purple for the binder. It's perfectly fine. I can just go with it. For the pen, that's a kind of odd color, so I want the shade of pink for the pens, so that these colors are of the same family, that is pinkish, purplish, bluish family. For the desk also, I want to change this color to this kind of an aqua blue, so that's what I'm going to go with. So basically you can just change the colors as per your choice. Then we have this shapes option. In shapes, what you can do is you can just control this inner radius of your donut chart. Right now it's this much, but if you want to just decrease it, you can decrease it using this slider, or if you want to increase it, you can increase it like this. Okay, so this is kind of a pie chart if the inner radius is 0, but I want a slight inner radius like around this much. It's looking good to me. So it's basically the formatting options or the visualizations that you can do as per your choice or as per the requirement. The next thing that we have is a title. That's total by item. This is the title given to us, but if you want to change its title, you can simply type anything that you want, like I want total chart as my title. So you can see total chart is now, or totals chart, that's an apostrophe, S over here for the totals chart over here. Okay, so you can just change the title, you can change the way the title is looking, its alignment. I want it to be on the center aligned. I can just change its size as well. So you can see it's applying these changes, so it may take some time for these changes to be incorporated, and once it's incorporated you would be able to see them. The background we have already seen that you can just change the color of the background to anything that you like. I want the shade of blue for the background, so here it is blue, but that's kind of odd, so let's just go with the shade of pink. That's looking good. And then we have like borders. If you want borders, you can just click on and you can see that the borders are applied over here. You can change the way their colors, you can change the radius of the border, just increase it. You can see the rounded corners present over here. Then you can apply shadows as well, so that's the color of the shadow. Position outside, preset like on the top like this. Okay, so that's how you can add the shadows, but that's not looking good, so you can just click on off. Then again, if you go to this detail labels option, there is one more thing that you need to know is where you want this label position. Right now it's on the outside, but if you want to change it to say inside, you can go with that as well, or whatever you like. Outside is a little better, so I'm going to go with outside. Okay, now this thing over here is known as the legend. So if you want to just change the way of this legend, then you need to search for an option called legend like here, and what you can do is change its position. Suppose you want it on the right, on the above, you can toggle the title as well. So I'm just going to click on off. You can just change its color, say suppose black or a darker shade, and you can just change the size of the text as well. So that's how you can just customize the donut chart. And there is one more thing. If you just hover over any of these items, you would get this kind of a tooltip. So if you are happy with it, then it's okay, but if you want to turn this tooltip off, then what you can do is just go to this tooltip option and you can just click on off. So none of the tooltips are visible right now. Okay, so that's how you can customize your donut chart. Let's go to any other chart. Let's go to page 3 and we are going to add another chart. This is a funnel chart. You can just click over it and you can see this funnel chart is being added over here. So again, you can add like items and total in the group and the values option. So this is what a funnel chart is. Like you can see the items like binder, how many quantities were sold, pen set, pencil, pen, desk, how many quantities were sold, and you can just customize its way through the format options, customize how it is looking. Okay, then you can just go with any other chart, literally any chart that is available. Like suppose there is this line chart. If you want to incorporate a line chart, that you can do as well. So I want to drag in the region. Okay, actually I want to drag in the region over here in the axis and the total in the values. So I want the region wise total. So you can see in the central region we have the highest total, then the east region and the west region we have the minimum total of the items being sold. So this is a line chart. Again, you can customize the way it looks in the format tab. So that is actually how you can just change the look of the different charts and how can you actually use the different charts in Power BI. Any chart that you want, you can simply just click on it and you can just drag these items over here and you would be able to work upon them as per your choice. So that was all about the charts. One interesting thing to note is, suppose we have this stacked column chart. We come back to the stacked column chart and there is this option of filtering that we need to look. Okay, so what happens in filtering is that suppose you are having this kind of chart and you want to compare two data, like we have 1.5k and 1.7k, so these are kind of in the same league, or 1.4k and 1.3k, these all four are in the same league and we want to compare these four values. Then what we can do is we can simply click on it, then press Ctrl and click on the second region, control and click on this third value, and control and click on this fourth value. Now once you have done that, you can just right click and go to this include option. Now what would happen is we would be getting only these 4 values for comparison. Now our chart is actually composed of only these 4 values, so that you can just compare them very easily. Now if you want to go back, you can simply go to this undo button and you would be able to go back. So this was the include option. There is the complement of this include option, that is known as the exclude option. So what would it do is, suppose you want to just click on these some values like 2.4k and 5.8k. You can just control click on these values and you can just right click and go to exclude. Then what happens is these 2 values are excluded from the chart and you are able to see all the values except those 2 in your chart. Okay, again you want to go back to the normal chart, you can click on undo and you would be back to your normal chart. So that's how the things works for the include and exclude, and they are actually the filtering options used for comparing these things. So that's all for the Power BI tutorial today. Thanks for watching. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Power BI tutorial. In this video we would see that how can you actually separate the data based upon a particular value and then export it as a CSV file from Power BI. So welcome back to the tutorial and let's start with the video. In the previous videos we have learned how to create the stacked column charts, and then we have seen that how can we import the data from Excel and represent it in the form of a chart. So in this video we would see that once you have created a chart based upon any of the data sets, then how can you actually separate the values of a particular thing that you want to show into the tables, and then you can just export that part of data in the form of a CSV file. That is like working upon a report in Power BI. So I know that may sound a bit confusing when I'm telling it, but let us understand it with the help of an example. So I will go to my recent sources, and in the recent sources I have loaded the sample data. So when I click on it, what would happen is a connection would be established between Power BI and that sample data. Because I have already loaded it, so it was present in my recent data sources. Now I can just select any of the tables that I want. So this is my table 1 which I want to load. So I can just click on table 1. I can just check this box and click on load. This would load table 1 into my Power BI and I can start working on it as soon as I want. So it may take some time to load the table into Power BI, and once the fields column or the fields pane is filled with some of the data, you would be sure that this table 1 has been loaded. Now you can see that our table 1 is loaded over here. The first thing that we are going to do right now is actually create a stacked column chart. Now to create a chart, we know that we need to go to this visualizations pane and click on stacked column chart. Now we need to provide it with some of the fields. So what fields we are going to provide is we want the axis to be filled with region. We want the items to be the legends, and then we want the total to be the values. Now when we drag them, we would get this kind of a chart. Okay, now let's go to the format tab and make sure that we get proper data labels as well. So you can click on and these data labels would be visible to you. If you want to get a better view at the chart, you can just click on this focus mode and just collapse all these panes and this chart would be visible like this. Now if you just take a look at these values, we can see that in the central region 1.5k pencils were sold, worth of 1.5k pencils were sold, 2.4k worth of the pen sets were sold in the central region, and so on. So this is the individual data that has been given to us. What if we want to take a look at all the records that are present in the original data set that correspond to this particular value? That is, if we want to show all the records in the table that are of the pencils being sold in the central region, So this is the portion that has been shaded by this pink region over here, and we want to show the corresponding tables or the corresponding records that lie behind it. So how can you go with it? A simple approach in Power BI is very simple. What you need to do is just right click over here, and then you will get these different options. So this is this first option, show data point as a table. So this value is actually considered as a data point, or it is called a data point in Power BI. And if you want to show the records behind it, what you got to do is simply click on this first option, show data point as a table. When you click on it, what would happen is you would get all the records in the form of a report. If you just cross check it, so if we take a look at the region, these are all of central region, and for the item, these are all of the pencil items. Means we have got all the records over here that are of the pencils being sold in the central region. This is exactly the thing that you would do with the help of the filters in Microsoft Excel, but in Power BI you have got a much simpler approach. All you got to do is click on that particular data point, and you can just go and see that in the form of a table. The reason why Power BI is more preferred over Microsoft Excel is because of its simplicity, and this thing is a live example of the same. You can click back on report and you would be back to your chart. Here, whatever options you want, you can simply just click on it. Right click, show data point as a table, and you would be able to get their options. Okay, so this is pretty simple. Now what happens if you want more than one record at once? Suppose I want these 4 records, so I have control clicked them. Then you can just right click on any one of the records and just go to show data point as a table. And then what you would get is, despite the fact that you have been clicked on the 4 records, you would only get the records of the thing that you had right clicked on and not any other thing. So it is pretty it is not possible for you to get like the records of all the different tables at once, because it is used for the purpose of report generation, and report generation is generally done for a particular item. Suppose you want a different approach, like I want to just get rid of this region from this or I want to just get rid of the items in this legend field. What would happen is, I would get the total value, that is total worth of the sales made in the particular region, that is in the central region, in the east region, and in the west region. Okay, now if I just right click on any one of them and go to show data point as a table, then I would be able to see all the records of the central region. So that's how you can filter the records in the chart itself. That is, you can just filter the data in the chart and you would be able to see its report correspondingly. Apart from this, if you want, like instead of region, you want it by the item. So we want for the items, that is how many items were sold. And if we go back to our focus mode, then we have got for the binder, for the binder, pen set, pencil, pen, and disk. And I want to show all the records of pencil. Then I can right click on it, show data point as a table, and I will get all the records of the pencils being sold in the different regions, be it central, west, east, any other region. Okay, so that's how it works. That's pretty simple. Now the thing that must cross your mind is, how can you actually generate a CSV file out of it? So that's a pretty simple thing to do. All you got to do is first make sure that for which record you want to generate a CSV file, or for which record you want to generate a report. Suppose this is my current chart and I want a report for the binders only. Okay, so I can just go to this data point option by right clicking on it, and once I am over here, then I have got an option that I can just generate a report out of all these options. That is, I can just create a CSV file that contains all these records. Okay, so for that, what I can do is I can just click on these 3 dots, that is for more options, and the first option that I've got is export data. If I want, I can just export it. So you can just click on it, and what happens is you can just export this data in the form of a CSV file. So I want it like binders. So this data is of binders. So let's just select binders and click on save. So this data is now saved in a CSV file with the name binders. If you want to just cross check it, what you can do is actually load a CSV file in Power BI to cross check the same thing. So what you can do is just go to get data option. Here is text/CSV format. You can just go to it, and here is this binders option. You can just click on it and click on open. Then of course you gotta wait for some seconds, and then you can see that this whole data is present, and you can just compare it's same despite the fact that it is a CSV file and this was a Excel file. So that's how you can actually use this data in Power BI again and again. Okay, so we are just going to close it for a while, and there is one more important thing. So as you can see that this chart is pretty simple, and we can pretty easily extract the records lying behind any particular data source once a chart is given to us. So there is another restriction that we can put on it. Suppose we have as a developer, we have given this chart to our end user, and that end user wants to take out that report. So we can control whether that end user can actually view this report or not. So for this purpose, we have a pretty simple approach, a pretty simple option. What you can do is you can go to this file option. Here is this options and settings, and once you go to this options tab, you gotta wait for a few seconds to get this option dialog box in front of you. Now in this options, you may find this current file written over here, and in the current file the last option is of report settings. Now what this report settings allows is, it allows whether we want the end users to summarize the data or not. So right now, if you can see in this export data option, we have allowed the end users to export the data from the Power BI, but if you do not want them, you can just click on don't allow the end users to export any data. So that's as per your choice. If you want the end users to export the data, you can do, or if you do not want, you can just click on don't allow, and whatever you choose, you can just click on OK and cancel to apply those changes. If you want those changes to be applied, you can just simply click on OK, otherwise you can just remove it. So that's how you can actually work with the data in Power BI. That's how you can filter the data, and that's how you can actually control who takes a look at your data and who cannot generate a report from your data. So that's all for this video in Power BI. Thanks for watching. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Power BI tutorials. In this video, we would be seeing that how can we actually create a map using Power BI. So for creating a map, there are some things that you must take note of. The first of them is that whatever data set you are using must have the columns like country, state, pin code, postal code, zip code, anything like that, or the city, so that the Power BI can actually recognize that what it wants to say. Like if you have a column labeled as states, so the Power BI would be able to recognize it and would be able to plot it on the map. So you have to search for a data set that is containing appropriate records. So the question might come to your mind that from where you can get a data set like this. So I have downloaded a simpler data set from the internet itself. I searched for something like sample dataset in Excel for map in Power BI, and on Google it, I have got the second link, that is Power BI course download practice datasets. And on going to this link, this is the section 4 maps and scatter plots, and this is this Excel sheet given to us, and if you want you can just download it from the same link. The link or the URL is given over here. I will also share it in the description box. So you can just go to this link and download this dataset, or you can just search for the dataset that suits your needs. So I have already downloaded this dataset, and let us load it into our Power BI to see what it looks like. So this is my Power BI, and the data that I have downloaded is in the form of an Excel sheet. So I'm going to import it in the form of an Excel sheet. This is the data, that is P6 Amazing Mart European Union 2 Geography, that is for the European Union or Europe itself, and click on open. and of course you gotta wait for a few seconds till the connection is established with the data. And we have got two sheets, that is list of orders sheet, and if you just go over it, so we have got the regions or the fields like city, we have got country, and we have got state over here. So if you just take a look, so we have got three deserving columns, or the three columns which could be used in the map, that is either the city, either the country, or either the state. So this is a preferred data set, we are going to use it. So you can just click or check it and click on load. Then what we are going to do is create a map out of it. So you must be wondering how to create a map. So there is a very simple method of creating a map in Power BI. Just as the charts, a map is also available in the visualizations pane as a visualization itself. So you can just simply create it. Okay, if you just expand this visualizations pane and this fields pane, here you can see that in the fields pane we have got list of orders with all these different fields. Okay, and here in the visualizations pane you can see something written as a map. So that is actually what we are going to do. We are going to just click on this map and a map would be available on our Power BI page. So if you just click on it, you can see a map is available, but we are not able to make anything out of it, what it is. So to make sure that it makes sense, we have to drag some of the fields. So the interesting field given over here is location. In location, you can just drag the city, country, state, or if the postal code or the zip code or the pin code is given, you need to drag it over here. I want the records to be filtered by the country, so I'm going to just drag and drop this country field into the location. And after that, you can see that this pointer is glowing, and after a few seconds this kind of a map would be loaded. Since this map was related to Europe, so I have got all these kind of bubbles over here. Like I have got entries for Finland, Sweden, Norway, United Kingdom, Ireland, Germany, France, Spain, Portugal, Italy, etc. So all these countries which were present in my data set are now being identified in this particular map. Okay, now what do I want to do is I want to actually take a look that how many orders were placed. So for that I can just drag the order ID. So this order ID column would be able would allow me to identify that how many orders were placed in which country. So this order ID column is dragged into the size field, and after a few seconds you can see that the size of the bubbles is now distorted. In France we have got a bigger bubble, and if we just hover over it, there is a tooltip with count of order ID, that is 991, meaning a total of 991 orders were placed from France. If we go to UK, 700 orders were placed. Then there is a smaller bubble in Norway because 37 orders were placed. In Sweden we have got 100 orders, and in Finland we have got 34 orders. So that's how you can actually represent the data in a map. One of the advantages of representing the data in a map is that you are able to interact with it in a better way. If you're showing this data to any of your clients or to your customers, they are going to be attracted more by a map rather than by a normal table or a chart. Okay, now there is one more thing. We have got a legend column. So luckily we have also got a region column in our data set. So if you want, you can just drag this region into the legend, and what would happen is now you have got colored dots like this dark blue for the north region, the central region is colored by a lighter shade of blue, and orange is what is representing the south region. So if you want the different regions to be highlighted on the map, you can do that as well. Now one more thing, that right now it is location that is used to represent the country is used to represent the location. But if you want cities to be represented, you can just drop this column and you can just drag the city column over here, and after a few seconds you would be able to see the different cities being mapped over here. So you gotta wait for a few seconds, and yes, you have got all these cities present over here, but it's actually not looking very good because we have got these different cities tagged all over the place because the cities name are identical. Okay, so we cannot get city for a very accurate database, so let's just drag state and see what happens right now. So yes, state is pretty more accurate than the city. So you can see the states over here, and if you want to have a bigger look at it, you can just go to the focus mode and you can just minimize the visualizations and the fields pane to get a better look at it. But there is actually one more thing, that is of zooming. Right now it is set at the zoom level, but what if you want to control the way the zooming occurs in the map? So you can do that by using this visualizations pane and formatting the way the map looks. So you need to go to this format tab, and if you just go to this map controls, here we have this zoom buttons option, which is currently set to off, but if you click on then you get these two zoom buttons, the plus and the minus one. You can just zoom in. Suppose I have zoomed in into Germany, and I can see these different states which have been highlighted, and I can just hover over it, and I would be able to see that which region it belongs, what is the name of the state, and how many orders were placed in that particular state, like this. Okay, so that's how it works, the zooming buttons. Now there is one more thing in map, like you all must have used Google Map. So there are different options available in the Google Maps, like there is this 3D mode, there is this street mode. So what if you do not want this plain looking way for the map and you want to change the way it looks? So you have got this option of map styles and visualizations for yourself. Right now the theme is set to road, but if you want, you can just change an aerial theme, and after a few seconds you can see that we have got this aerial theme, and now you can just zoom in with all your details and you would get this like terrain kind of a view. You want any other theme, you want like a dark theme, so the dark theme would be available to you. You want any other theme, it is very easy to set that particular theme. I'm going to go with an aerial theme. Okay, now you can also just toggle with or play with all these options, like I don't want tooltips to be there, so no tooltips are there, but if I just click on then this tooltips would be visible now, like this. Okay, so that's how you can work with these maps. You can actually go on, say, data colors. You can just change the colors with which these regions are being highlighted. I want a grayish kind of for the central region. For the north region I want, say, kind of again a black for the central region, or for the north region I want black, and for the south I want, say, white, 30% darker white. So these are the three shades that I have chosen, that you can just click and select. You can choose whether you want to show legends and where you want to show legends. That is basically how you can customize the way that your chart is looking or your map is looking. So that is how you can work with maps in Power BI. That's pretty simple, and that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. Hello everyone, welcome to another tutorial of Power BI. In this tutorial video, we are going to explore more about the maps in Power BI. In the previous video, we take a look at this map in which we created a map, and then we dragged the different fields into the map and then try to show it with the help of these bubbles. So this was a kind of map, that is a simple map in which bubbles or circles could be used to represent the data. But there is another map in Power BI, and that is known as the filled map. You can see its icon in the visualizations pane just beside the globe map icon that we used previously. This is known as the filled map. And the difference between these two maps is that while a normal map helps you to show the data with the help of bubbles or any kind of figure like a circle, on the other hand, the filled map fills that particular region with a color and then it tries to show that particular data. So in this video, what we are going to do is we are going to create first of all a filled map, and then with the same data set we are going to create a simple map, and then we are going to compare both of them. So for that purpose, what I have done is I have downloaded a sample data set from the internet. if you just go to Google and Google this simple sample data set in Excel for map in Power BI, then this is this link present, that is of superdatascience.com. Here you can see this first Excel sheet that is given to us for a superstore in US whose data set is given for the year 2015. I have downloaded this particular data set, and once I have downloaded, I have got this kind of an Excel sheet in which there are 3 sheets: orders, returns and users, and I'm going to use this orders table. So this is my sample data set, and let's see that how can we use it. The reason why I have chosen it, because you can see this state or province column is present over here, so I can use all these states over here. And the country, we have got a same country, that is United States only. Okay, so let's just load this data into our Power BI first of all. So we all know that to load the data, what do we need to do is we need to go to get data, and we first have to make sure that which kind of data we are going to load. And since we are going to load an Excel data, so I'm going to select Excel, and this is my data, that is Superstore US. So let's click on open, and it may take a few seconds to load your data into Power BI before the preview is generated. So here we have got the orders sheet, and once we click on it, you can see a preview over here, and you can just cross check that whether the column that you want most, that is the state or province column, is present over here. Then you can simply click on it and click on load, and this data would be loaded into your Power BI, taking a few seconds of your time. Okay, so once it's loaded, you would be able to see the orders in this fields section. So that would tell you whether this data is loaded or not. Okay, so now we can see the orders over here, which means that yes, our data is now being imported into Power BI successfully. And you can just expand it by clicking on this arrow icon, and you would be able to see all the column headings that were present in your data source that you just viewed in the Excel. Now what we want to do is create a filled map out of this data. So for that, let us just create a new page by clicking on this plus icon, and a fresh page is present in front of us. So to create a filled map, the process is pretty simple. All you got to do is click on this filled map icon in the visualizations pane. You can just expand it as per your choice. In the location field, you want to drag this state or province column like this, and once you do that, you gotta wait for a few seconds, and you can see that this whole United States is actually colored with a sort of a blue color. The reason why, because we have just dragged in state or province, we are not categorizing it, we are not adding any kind of values, so it is just recognizing all the states in a uniform color. But if you hover over it, you will get a tooltip with the name of that state like this. You can see Washington, you can see Arizona, you can see California, you can see Georgia, and so on. All these states are visible via tooltips. Now the other thing is, suppose you want to just categorize it on the basis of something. So a simple option for this is the region. If you just take a look at this region, we have got a region column which would categorize all these states into the 4 regions that are present. So if we just drag this region into this legend field, then what do we get? Okay, so we have got 4 colors, this purple, blue, navy blue, and a shade of orange. These are for the 4 regions, as you can see in the label over here, that is the central, east, south and west. So here you can categorize the different states based upon region. And now if you hover over these states, previously when only the states were dragged into the location, you were only able to see Washington. But now since region is also being dragged, you are able to see the region as the west region, that Washington present in the west region. Similarly, Pennsylvania is present in the east region, North Carolina is present in the south region, and so on. Nebraska in the central region, and so on. Okay, so that's how actually you can work with a filled map in Power BI. If you just want to toggle over any of these states, you can simply do that. Now there is one interesting thing that you must note, that in the location we have got state or province as the column heading, and luckily this is a valid heading, because the heading must be like a state, a country, a city, or a postal code for us or for the Power BI itself to recognize that what we are going to show in the map. But in case the exact heading is not present, suppose in case of state or province, like state 25 or some other thing is present which is not valid column name, then what you can do is you can make sure that Power BI recognizes this column as a state or province column by simply clicking on that particular column. As soon as you do that, you will get this common tools tab highlighted, and then this, it is a data category. Right now it is uncategorized, but it doesn't matter because Power BI already recognizes it because of the column heading. But in case the column heading is not correct, then you can just go to this uncategorized one and you can select whether it is a city, whether it is a country, whether it is a state or province, whether it is a continent, a longitude, latitude, postal code, whatever it is, so that whatever you select, then Power BI would be able to recognize that what actually it is, and then the Power BI would be able to act upon it as per its category. Okay, so as soon as you have changed it to state or province, you can see this kind of a globe sign present over here, which means that now Power BI has categorized it as a state or province. Okay, now this was about a field map. Let us create a simple map with the same data and try to compare the results. Okay, so let us create a new page, and now we will click on the simple map. And now what we would be doing is just dragging the state and province into location, and we would be dragging this region into the legend fields. Okay, so now you can see that, let's just go to the focus mode for a better view. All the states of the United States are marked over here with circles, like Washington, Idaho, Nevada, California, everything is marked with the circles. Instead of being colored fully, they are just being marked with the circles. So that is a simple map that is used to use some kind of symbols like bubbles or circles to represent the states or whatever region they are trying to represent. While in the case of field map, like the one over here, if you just go into the focus mode, you can see everything is represented fully in color. Like you can see every state that is colored fully. So that is the difference between the field map and a normal map. Another difference is that in a normal map you have got another field that is of a size. So if you just go to some kind of a quantity, a numerical value, like say order ID, then what happens is you can just get this order ID into size. So these bubbles would differ in size based upon the order ID, and we would get a count of order ID. Like in Texas we have got 124 order IDs, means 124 of total orders were placed in Texas. In California we have got a bigger bubble because 214 orders were placed. So this is an added advantage of a simple map, that you would be able to just see any kind of a numerical quantity in a better way represented through a normal map instead of a field map. Okay, so that is the basic difference. If you want some kind of a numerical value to be represented, you can just go with a normal map. Now there is one more thing. There is this postal code. If you can just check it, what happens, let's see. We are going to just drag this postal code into the location instead of the state. Now what happens is we got to just wait for a few seconds. Yes, so now you can see that it has got bobbled up all over the place. Why? Because postal code is not recognized as a standard quantity. You can just go to postal code and see it is uncategorized. So let's just categorize it into a postal code, and this may take a few seconds. Okay, now the postal code is although recognized as a valid quantity, but still you can see it's scattered all over the place. So thus we can make sure from this fact that the name is a better way to categorize our data than the postal code, because we are pretty sure that all of this data is for the United States of America, as the data set is for the superstore based in US, and it's not going to deliver in some place of Africa, Europe or Australia or somewhere here. So that's how it works. Thus to categorize them, if states and postal code both are present, it is recommended to use a state to categorize the location instead of postal code. So that's all for this video in Power BI, and thanks for watching. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Power BI tutorial. In this video, we will be seeing that how can we create a map along with a pie chart in Power BI. In the previous videos, we have already learned about how can we create a map, either a simple map or a filled map, and try to show some of the data using that map itself. But in this video, we are going to take a step further and we are going to combine the features of a map in Power BI along with a pie chart. The reason why we are choosing a pie chart is because that it can be represented very easily in a circular form. So it would be easy to locate that pie chart in a map, because here, as you can see, that we have got all these circles or the bubbles that would be used to represent any of the stuff over here, right? So for this, there are some of the predefined requirements. Let us just get into the focus mode and just minimize these panes for a second. So the reason why we are choosing this map or the requirement is that you must need to choose a simple map. That is the one that is represented by a globe kind of a icon over in the visualizations panel. So you need to make sure that you are having exactly this kind of a map, and it would be the only requirement, because for the pie chart we cannot use a filled map. The reason being that in the case of a filled map, you do not have any kind of a bubbles or anything, but you can just use them in this map. So that's why we have dragged this map. And what else I have done is I have imported a data source. So if you just go to recent sources, this one that is of a Superstore US, this is the data source that I have imported in my Power BI, and this is the data source which I have downloaded from the internet. So if you want, I will share its URL in the description box below. And this is all the fields that I have got from this orders table from the US Superstore database. Now in this all the fields, we have a column named as state or province, and I have dragged this into the location, and that is why we are getting all these states in the form of a blue color. So let us first understand or perform some of the actions so we are able to understand that what is it going to do in a better way. So we have another column that is known as the region column, and if we can just drag it into the legend field, then you can see that there are 4 regions now: the central region, east region, south region, and the west region. These 4 regions are actually represented by 4 different colors, which is actually shown over here. These are the different regions which you can easily see. So it is a way of categorizing the data in Power BI. Alright, suppose you do not want region. Let us just remove this region field. Then we have another field in our table, and that is known as the customer segment field. If we just get it into the legend, then what happens? You can see this customer segment is actually that for what purpose the thing or the product that the person has required or has ordered for is going. It is for customer use, it is for corporate use, it is for home or office use, or it is for a small business. So these are the 4 categories of the customer segment that we have got. And as you can see, as soon as I dragged that into the legend field, all our bubbles have changed into some kind of a different icon. If you're having any trouble in seeing those bubbles, you can just increase its size by going into the format tab. Here is this bubbles option, and here is the size. You can just increase its size a little bit like this. Okay, so now you can see it is all visible very clearly. These are the different states. Suppose here we have Montana. So it has only two categories, means whatever the orders are listed for Montana, we have either the orders for small business or for the home and office. However, in Washington we have all four of them. All four of the categories or the customer segments have been ordered in Washington. Similarly, in Oregon also, all the four customer segments have been ordered. So this is a kind of a pie chart, but as you can see that wherever this is the three customer segments have been listed, we have got the same angle everywhere. For the two we have got a 50-50 proportion, and for the four ones we have got a 25% proportion. So with the help of this customer segment in the legend, we are able to get that how many customer segments are ordered, but we are not very sure on the fact that actually how much of them were ordered. Like we can easily make out from this chart or from this map that in Washington all the four of the customer segments were ordered. That's perfectly fine, but we cannot make out that how many of the small businesses were ordered or how many for the corporates were ordered. We cannot make out a proportion for that. So for that purpose, what we can do is we can just come back to our place where all the fields are listed, and there is the size field. In size we are going to just get something, and that is known as the we must have something called as say unit price. You can just get it into the size, and yeah, you can see all of them. So we are able to classify them that how many total worth of the consumers were, or the products that were fit for consumption of a consumer were ordered in Washington. That is around 10,288.32. Similarly, for the corporate we have some other value, that is 5579.06, and for the small business we have 779.62, and for the last one, that is home or office, we have 141.21. So that is the total price of the units that were ordered for each and every customer segment. So if we just go to the format tab once again and just decrease the size of the bubbles a little bit, so you can see that we have got these different proportions all over the place, and we are able to make out that from which customer segment we are getting most orders out of the state. Similarly, if we try to go to California, then we have got the corporate customer segment placing most of the orders. In New York we have got home and office segment ordering the most of the stuff, and similarly we can easily make out from this chart or this map along with the pie chart that which thing or the which you can say which customer segment is being ordered the most in which state. So this is how you can just use a pie chart in a Power BI map. This is a very simple process in Power BI, but if you can see it in the competing softwares like Tableau, it is a very advanced process. It would not be as simple as we just learned over here. That is why Power BI is more preferred, because it is very simple to use. We have used it for say unit price right now. What if we just remove it, then all things would get back to normal like this. And suppose we want to make out that how many profit we are just getting from all these fields. So on profit we are getting the profit only from the small businesses in Washington. In California, the most of the profit we are getting is from the home and office businesses. In here we can, like in Oregon, we can get the profit from corporate sector and the consumer sector. So we are getting profits from three sectors, but most of the profit is coming from the consumer sector. And this is the kind of the data that we have got, that from which consumer segment in which state we are getting the maximum profit. So this is the actual use of Power BI. This is the actual use where you can just make out different kind of stuff, where you can analyze the data and gather different kinds of information which was hidden if we hadn't used this tool. So that's the actual goal behind using Power BI, to get some of the insights into the data. So that's how you can just create a pie chart along with a map in Power BI. And I hope you all have understood that how can you just use this along with the pie chart. And if you want to make any other things, like suppose instead of profit you want a sales, that how much sales was done in each and every sector. So you can see we have got all these bubbles again, and they are of different proportions. So that's all for today's video, and I hope you all have understood it. Thanks for watching. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Power BI tutorials. In this video we will be seeing that how can we work with tables in Power BI. Now we all know that Power BI is a software from where we can do a variety of things, and mainly it is used to analyze the data. But since the fundamental of this data is a table, so Power BI gives us the opportunity to actually work with tables in Power BI itself. There are two ways through which we can actually use the tables or create the tables in Power BI. One is from the scratch, and one is if already you have some kind of a table or a data set loaded into Power BI, then you can create a table out of the fields available to you. So the first step is creating a table from scratch. So we are going to see that. So for that, what do you need to do is, first of all, make sure that you have opened your Power BI. Then in this data group, you will find something called as enter data. So if you just hover over it, there is this small tooltip given to you that you can create a new table by typing or pasting in new content. So this is one way through which you can actually create a table for yourself in Power BI. If you just click over it, then what happens? You will get this kind of an option. So this is column 1, which is representing nothing but a table for you. So if you just can give it some kind of a heading like region, and if you see, this is the star option. If you just click over it, so you would be able to add one more column. So as many times as you click on star, those much columns would be added. So let's just right click and delete it. You can just delete any column by right clicking over it, and let's just double click over here and just change its name to sales. Okay, so I'm going to create a very simple table with just two columns, that is the region column and the sales column. Alright, now in the region columns, let us just type in the west region, the central region, the east region, and the say south region. Okay, now in the sales, I'm going to give some of the values. These are the random values that I am giving, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, so these are the 4 random values that I have given. Similarly, if you just click over this star for this rows, so a number of rows would be added as well. And if you don't want the rows, you can just right click over it and delete them. Right, now we have created a very simple table. This is one way of creating the table from scratch. The other one is you can just go to some source, say Excel, and if you have created a table in Excel, you can just copy it and you can just paste that table over here, and you would be able to get that table in Power BI itself. Now you can give your table a name. So I'm going to give it as region wise sales, and then you can simply click on load. Now this may take a few seconds to just load this table into Power BI. Now one thing you must note over here that this is actually a table that you have created in Power BI, and it has no relation with any of the external data sources. Alright, now you can just see that we have got two tables in this field section. One is the orders table that we had loaded earlier, and this is the region wise sales table that we have just created. If you just drop it, there are two fields, region and sales, which we have just created. So let us just use a chart, a simple say column chart, to just depict this data. We can just get this region into the axis one and the sales into the values. Okay, now you can see we have got these 4 options. Actually that is not correct, so let's just get this chart again. Region in the axis fields and sales in the values field. Right, So you would be able to get this, but I'm not very sure why it is not getting the correct thing. That is because I think we're getting the count of sales. Yes. So what we can do is just click over it in the sales and just categorize it as the sum. I think it should work. Let's get the column chart again. Region is already there, and values for sales. Yes. So we have got the sales, that is for the west region we have got 8,007 sales, for the east region around 7,969, for the central region, and for the south region. Okay, so this is a very simple way of creating a table and just using it directly into our Power BI. Okay, the next method or the next way of creating a table is using this visualizations pane. If you just go over here, just below your filled map, you will find something called as a table, and just beside it is a matrix. So matrix we would cover in the later videos, and it is also similar to that of a table. But first of all, let us look at a table. So you can just simply click over it and you would get a table. Now when you just drag it, or when you just open up a table in a page, you can see that here we have got a values field. In the previous options or any other options, like in the charts or in the maps, we have got a bunch of fields over here, like the legend, the size, the values, etc. But in the table we have only got the values. And what does this values field expect from us? It expects some kind of data or some kind of fields or some kind of columns which can be added into the table. So for this table to work in Power BI, there is a requirement that at least one table must be imported in Power BI beforehand. Then only you can just use this table. So we have two tables actually. So I'm just going to collapse this region wise sales, and I'm just going to expand this orders table. Now this orders table is a part of the data set that I have downloaded from the internet. So if you want for yourself, you can just download any of these sample data sets from the internet, and then you can use it very easily. So we have got actually some kind of thing that is known as state or province. I'm going to drag it in the values field, and we have got all these states over here, and I want to show that how much profit is done in each state. So I will just drag this profit field again into the values pane. And as soon as I do that, you can see that we have got two columns in our tables, the state or province column and the profit column. Now I can drag as many values as I want into this values field, and it would be added into the table. Alright, so suppose I want also the sales of each state or province, then I can just drag in the sales as well. And you can see that if I want, I can just drag these things and their order would be changed. Now it is state, sales and profit. If I want sales to be coming at the end, then I can just drag it and its order would be changed in the table itself, like this. Okay, then if you want any other thing, suppose you want how much discount was given, you can just drag and drop this discount as well. Alright, so we have got all these options, and one interesting thing to note over here is in this table we have got these four headings, and along with them we have also got a total. So this is the default layout of a table. If you just go to the focus mode, then you can see it in a clear way that all of them are visible now in a much more good way, in a much more way that is readable, in a readable form. So here you can see that the total and the heading column, that is the topmost row and the lastmost row, is fixed. That is, this headings are fixed and this thing is also fixed. So that is the beauty of Power BI. In Microsoft Excel, if you have read Microsoft Excel, we had to do all these things manually, but in Power BI everything is fixed. Alright, now one more thing, you must have noticed that in state or province we have got different states like Alabama, Arizona, California, etc. And they all are by default arranged in an ascending order. Like you can see all in the ascending order. Okay, so if you just click on this arrow, this is what is used for this purpose. That is, if your data is not arranged in a predefined format. Suppose in the profit it's not arranged, so we can just click on this arrow, and you can see that now the table is arranged on the basis of profit. That is the maximum profit values we have got over here. And if you just scroll down, this is the value we have got the most of the loss, that is in North Carolina, and it is present at the bottom. Similarly, if you want to arrange with the help of the sales or with respect to the sales, you can see that it is also arranged into the format, that is the topmost or the state in which the most of the sales were made, it is present at the top, and at the state where the least of the sales were made, it is present at the bottom. Similarly, you can also sort it with the help of the discount. Basically, any number of columns that you have, you can just sort it on the basis of that only. Okay, so yeah, if you want, you can also work with the states by just simply clicking on this arrow. So this is actually very much simpler than the Excel counterparts or any of the competing software counterparts that we have got in Power BI. That is the beauty of Power BI, its simplicity. So that's all for today's video. Thanks for watching. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Power BI tutorial course. In this video, we will see that how can we actually format the tables in Power BI. In the previous video, we have already seen that how can we create a table in Power BI. Now, once you have created a table using the second method that was discussed in the previous video, then only you would be able to actually format it, because in the first method you gotta simply create a table and you are not showing it to anyone else, so there is no need to just format that table. But over here the table is shown to the user, to the end user, so it is very much important that you just format it so that it looks appealing to the user, and the user is actually interested in knowing that what is going on in that table or what data it contains. So let us start with the video. We have already got a table from the previous video itself, where we have arranged the values on the basis of the states or province. That is, they are arranged in the ascending order on the basis of the states or province. Now we have got 4 values over here, which are originally taken from a table known as orders, which is a part of our US Superstore dataset, which is downloaded from the internet. So if you want, you can just go to the internet and download any of the data sources that you like. Alright, now I have dragged 4 values, that is a state or province, and I am getting state wise sales data, state wise profit data, and state wise discount data, because these are the 4 columns that I have dragged in my values field. If you want, you can drag any number of columns, more or less. It doesn't matter. Whatever data you want to show in your table, you can simply drag it into the values column and it would be a part of your table. Alright, now this is already created table. Let us just change something. We want to just increase its text size because it is not very much visible right now because we are in the focus mode. But if we just click on back to report, then you can see it is very small, it is very tiny, we cannot see anything. Okay, so for that purpose we have this format tab, and there is something called as values. If you just expand this values group, there are these different options available, and all these options have a common task, that is they format the way the values are represented in our table. Alright, like we can format the font color, the background color, the alternate font color, and the alternate background color. Similarly, if you just scroll down, there is something known as text size. Right now it is 10 point, but if you want, you can just increase it using these options, these arrow buttons, and I want say a text size of around 20. Let's wait for a second, and you can see that we have got now 20 for our values. But what about them? What about the headings? So there is a separate way through which we can actually change the way the headings looks and their size as well. So we would be doing it afterwards, but simply we are going to be focusing on the values right now. Alright, so if we talk about font color, so what font color do we have is black. But if you want to change your background color, right now it is white and shade of gray, but I want to use blue and its shades. Suppose this aqua blue that I've got, and for the alternate one I want this kind of a darker blue, right? So yeah, these two are present, and when I'm using this, I want actually to change the font color from black to white because it would be more visible. That's what I think. In the blue one, yes, that's correct. And let us just change this alternate font color to white as well. And you can see that these lists or these data is now much more visible in a better way than it was previously. So that's how you can actually change the way of how your values look. That is the font color, the background color. Then you can also choose if there must be an outline. So if you just select on frame, what would happen is you would get all the four sides of the outlines. But if you don't want a frame, you want only for top only, bottom only, left only, these are all pretty self-explanatory, so you can explore them for yourself. And if you want to change the font family, suppose Consolas, so yeah, it's changed over here as well. Okay, so that was all about the values, that how can you work with them. Then there is this column headers. So whatever things you did in the values, that is the same things present in the column headers as well. Like you can change the background color if you want. I want it with the lightest or the second shade darker of the blue, and the font color I want to change to say white. Yep. And then what I want to do is actually I want to change its size to say 22 points. So yeah, that's looking pretty good to me. And also you can work with the alignment, like I want center alignment, so you can just provide it with the center alignment as well. And similarly, that was for the column headers. There is another section that is known as the total section. So if you want, you can just work with total section as well. We have got this total section over here. You can control whether whether you want to show this totals column to the end user or not. If you just turn it off, then this totals column would vanish away. But if you want to show it, you can just turn it on, and everything you can change. Like instead of total, I want the column heading or the heading as sum, so sum is present over here. You can change the cosmetic part, you can change the outlines, you can change the size, everything that you want. So that was for a bunch of similar options. The other things that we have is known as a grid. Like you can see right now the horizontal grid is on, but the vertical grid is off. If you can just turn on this vertical grid, it is actually now visible, but since our outlines were already there, so you cannot make it very sure. You can obviously change its color, so you can just choose a black color, and you can see that this vertical grid has changed its color to black. So that's how you can work with it. You can also increase its thickness to around say 3 points. Similarly for the horizontal grid also, you can just change its color to black. You can just increase its thickness to 3 as well, and you can see that the table is looking more clearly. Also you can just change this row padding as well, like this. Okay, and all these things for the grids. Then we have this styles option, so that is a default style, or these are actually how much or what style you want for your table. You want a minimal style, so this is a default style. Instead of just working on the cosmetic part, you can simply work with the styles. Like you can go with a minimal style, you can go with a bold header style, alternating rows, that over here contrast alternating rows. So these are all these things like flashy rows. You can just work with them as per your wish. So that is how you can manipulate a table in Power BI. You can just change how it looks or how it is used to represent the data to the end user. And as you can see, it is very simple, just like how we did it in Excel, or how can we do it in Excel. So that is all in this video. Thanks for watching.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Power BI tutorials.
in this video we will see that how can we apply conditional formatting over the tables in Power BI. Now, apart from conditional formatting, we will also be seeing that how can we apply some of the aggregate functions over the values on a table. So let us start with the video. In front of your screens, you all could see this table. This is the same table from the previous video in which I taught you about how to create a table in Power BI. So this is the same table that I have taken up. You can take up any table that you want. Now once you know that how you can create a table. After this, what we are going to do is actually apply conditional formatting over the different values in this table. So before working on it, you must need to know a few things about conditional formatting. First of all, the conditional formatting can only be applied over the numerical values in a table. So if we talk about this table, we have three columns of numerical values, that is the sales column, profit column and the discount column. So only these three columns can be applied with conditional formatting, and the state or province column cannot be applied with the conditional formatting. The second thing is what is conditional formatting? So it is actually a formatting that is done based upon some condition. Usually when we see this table, it is kind of plain. Now if we just sort this table on the basis of sales, then what happens is we are getting the sales value, like the largest value on the top and the smallest sales value on the bottom. We all know that, but there is no visual representation of the fact in the table. So if we want to visually represent something, some numerical value, then we make use of a concept that is known as conditional formatting. Conditional formatting can be applied on a number of criteria. What are those? We would see just now. So to apply conditional formatting, what do you need to do is make sure first you have got a table for yourself, and then in this format tab, what you can do is just scroll down. Here this is something written as conditional formatting, and this is exactly where we wanted to end up. So when you expand it, you have got these bunch of options. The first one is the heading of the column on which conditional formatting could be applied. Okay, so if you just see the drop down, there are these four columns, all the four columns of the corresponding table. But we know that conditional formatting cannot be applied over state or province because it is a textual value. So these three column headings are actually valid to apply a conditional formatting. First of all, let us apply it on sales. So whichever column you need to be formatted conditionally, you need to select that first, and these are the different parameters on the basis of which you can actually apply conditional formatting. These are background color, font color, data bars, icons and web URL. First of all, if we talk about background color, and if we just turn it on, then what happens? You can see that the sales value is now formatted conditionally based upon blue color, which is by default the color for Power BI. So what does it do is it has actually marked this topmost value, which is the highest value, with a dark blue shade, and then this shade is lightening as the values are decreasing. You can see that at the bottommost value, like this one, this is the least dark blue, or it is the lightest of the blue. So this is a very simple type of conditional formatting in which there are the different shades of the colors available, and you can just apply them over a column using background color. Now what if you want to just change the color? You do not want this blue color, you want some other color. What you can do is you make sure that as soon as you turn this button on, there is something known as advanced controls is present over here. You can simply click on it and you will find this kind of a pop-up menu in front of you. All these things you can just keep the same. The thing we are going to focus on right now is this value. So the minimum, which means the lowest value, would be shaded by this shade of blue. But suppose you want some other color. I want like a shade of red, so I can just go to custom color and get a shade of red. And for the highest value, instead of blue, I want a shade of green. So I again go to custom color and just select a shade of green. Instead of this, I can also enter a particular value in case I want that value to be associated with that particular color instead of the highest or the lowest values. Like here you can see either the custom value or the highest value for maximum. This is the format by option in which the color scale is selected, but there are other options also, like rules or field value can also be selected, which we would be discussing later on. But once you are happy with it, you can just click on OK, and after a second or few, you can see that the highest value is now represented with kind of a green color, and these are the brick red colors all associated with it, and the lowest value is represented by a reddish color. So that is how you can actually work with it to make a contrast very easy. We know that the highest value is the green and the lowest value is red. So that was about background color. Let us just take a look on other methods as well. So right now we have applied it on sales. Let us go to profit. And now what we're going to do, we can apply a font color, so that if you just turn it on, you can see that it is now changed on the basis of the font color. We can sort it on the basis of profit. We can go to advanced controls, and here is the same thing that we did on the basis of the background color itself. So I'm not going to repeat it, but you can just work on it similarly as you did with the background color. The third one is the discount column. Now we have sorted the table on the basis of the discount column, and let's just apply some conditional formatting over it as well. So we can just select discount column, and here are the different things, like you can apply a data bar, and these are the data bars that can be applied, which is the length of the bar that is showing you that what is actually the value of the discounts. Then what you can do is you can just select two bars, either positive or negative, and you can just give its direction. Suppose it's right now left to right, you can just change it to right to left, and once you click OK, the direction of the bar changes. And suppose you want to work with the positive and negative values, then for that what we can do is instead of profit, for profit we have to use this data bars option, because in profit only we have negative values, we do not have any negative values in discount. So let's just turn this font color off and just change this data bars option on, and we can just go to advanced controls, and there are this positive bars. We want positive bars with say green color and negative bars with red color, and we can click on OK. Then what happens is all the positive values in profit are there with green, and the negative values are with red, which means that's a loss instead of a profit if the color is red. Then the next option we have is of icons. Suppose instead of data bars, let's just turn that off, we apply icons over profit. So these are the icons, that is these green ones with a higher profit, these yellow triangle ones for an average profit, and these red diamond ones for a loss or a negative value or below average profit. So that is how you can apply conditional formatting for the different options in Power BI. Now next thing is how to apply aggregation. So for that we can just go to fields, and here you can see in the values where we have dragged these columns, you can see something written as profit. If you just click on this arrow, you can see these are the different aggregations or different values that we can apply. So suppose I want to show the percentage of profit. So I can go to show value as, and I can go to percent of grand total. Then what happens is, instead of the exact profit amount, I'm getting the percentage of the profit, that how much percent of the profit I have made from the sales done in that particular state or in that particular province. Suppose you want to show something else, like instead of the percentage of profit, you also want to show its numerical value and the percentage as well. Then you can just drag this profit once more into the value column, and you can see now the value is shown as well as its percentage is shown. You can just change its order as well. Suppose for the discount you want to show on the basis of maximum, then what happens is, actually there is no change, because there is this change on the basis of the maximum discount, that what is the maximum amount of discount, and that has been presented over here. Or you can just go on sum. So sum is by default value, which actually shows the actual value. So if you're not sure what you want to show, you can just go with sum. Otherwise you can also go for average, like average of the discount would be shown over here, or if you want you can go with a minimum value as well. So that is how you can actually work with the aggregation functions in Power BI, and along with conditional formatting in Power BI. Also you can show the percentage of any of the values that you want. So that is all in today's video, and I hope you all have enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Power BI tutorials. In this video we will see that what is a matrix and how can we create a matrix in Power BI. But before going into the topic of matrix, let us first understand that what is the need of matrix. Matrix is actually used to represent data just like a table, but it does in a 2D format, while table does it in a 1D format. So that is the basic difference between a matrix and a table. Now the question that must come to your mind is, why do we needed the matrix if we already had the table? So there are a few shortcomings of representing the data through table which were actually solved by the use of a matrix, and that is why we are using matrix as well as table nowadays. So what are these shortcomings? We will see it with the help of an example. First of all, you can see in your screens that I have opened my Power BI. Now I'm going to create a table. So for that I need to go to this visualizations pane and click on table. Then I'm going to add some of the columns to it, like the region column, the item column, and the units column. So this is my table in which what I have got is the region. There are 3 regions, the central, east and the west region. Then I have got the items. So if you take a look at these items, then what I'm getting is, for the central region I have got the list of binders, that how many units of the binders were sold. Then again for the binder there is a separate entry for the east region, that how many binders were sold in the east region. And again for the binders there is an entry for the west region, that how many binders were sold in the west region. Okay, now if I just try to sort this table on the basis of the item itself, so I've got these 3 separate entries for binder, 2 for desk, 3 for pens, and so on. So there are separate entries for the same product, that is separate rows have been taken. Now what is my concern over here is, suppose I want to show that how many total number of binders were sold despite of the fact that the region I cannot make out. I have to just manually calculate this sum, and then I would be able to tell that how many total number of binders were sold. But this is only a small quantity, so I can just calculate it manually, but this is not the case in the corporate world. There are millions of entries and you need to calculate the data from it, so manual calculation is just out of context. So for this purpose we have the use of a matrix. A matrix is a 2-dimensional form, so it would just organize this data into a 2D format, and this data would be represented in a much more user-friendly way. How? So first of all, we will see that how can we create a matrix from the table that is already created. Right now this table is already created, so what I'm going to do is make sure that my table is selected, and then I can go to the visualizations pane, and here is this matrix option that is just beside the table option, and if I just click on it, then what happens is, you see that the table that we had just now is now converted into a matrix. Now I can make sure that this is my matrix. I have got the entry for the region, and I have got the entry for the items, and I have got the entry for the totals. So from this matrix I can very easily find out that how many number of binders were sold in the central region, how many number of binders were sold in the east and the west region, and then I can make out that how many total number of binders were sold, that is 722, in these 3 regions. Then there is another interesting thing, I can find out that how many total sales or how many units were sold totally in a central region, that is 1199 units were sold totally. Similarly in the east region and the west region as well. So that is the beauty of matrix. It gives you insights into data that were not possible with a table. some of the interesting insights that table was not able to give you. Now, this is a two-dimensional format of data. We are getting the entries for the region and the items as well. But suppose you want the heading of the region for the columns and the heading of the items for the rows. Then you can see over here that in the rows we right now are having region, but you can just drag region into columns and you can drag items into the rows. So basically that is how a matrix works. A matrix has three values: the rows, the columns and the values. In the rows field you can just get anything that you want and it would bind the rows like this, in the columns over here, and the values are what is represented over here. Now here we are only having units. Suppose instead of units you want the totals as well. Suppose you want it to compare on the basis of two values. Then what you can do is you can just drag more than one value into this values column, and then what you can see is we are getting two columns over here. In the central region, that is a super heading, we are getting two subheadings, that is the units and the total, that is total of 424 units were sold, which is worth rupees 5762.63. so this is the case for all of them, like east, west and the total as well, that is how many units were sold and what is the worth of these units. Similarly over here also we can get that how many total units were sold in central region and what is the worth of these units. So this is a beauty of matrix. It helps you to get a better insights into the data. Now suppose if we just get rid of this totals column, there are all the things that you can do with a matrix that were possible through a table. That is, you can just format the matrix just like a table. You can apply conditional formatting to a matrix just like a table. So let us understand this conditional formatting part with the help of an example. So for that purpose, as in the table, you need to go to the format tab, and then what you can do is just scroll down and go to conditional formatting. So I'm going to format it based upon the units, because we know that only on the basis of the numerical values or the numerical columns only we can actually format the data. And I'm just going to apply icons. So if I just click on, then what happens is I'm getting these kind of symbols, that is green, circle, red, diamond and yellow triangle. But what if I want to customize it? Now we know that to customize anything, to customize the conditional formatting, we can go to advanced controls, and here you can see that this is for the units. In this we have got rules. So rules is used to format the icons. Suppose what is it? These are the rules that have been laid out over here, that if the value is greater than or equal to 0% and is less than 33%, then it is shown by this diamond. But instead of percent, you can just go with number, and number over here for all the values. Actually we can just go with number. Okay, and then we need to just change it, like if it is from 0 to say 400, then we get this. If it is from 400 till say 800, we can get a number. If it is from 800 till what value we have? We have actually 2000, so we can just go with 1000 or a 1200. Okay, then we can just change the icons as well as per our wish. We want a red down arrow, suppose we want say this thing, yellow exclamation mark, and we want this thing, and for the red also we want this cross sign. So this is what we can do. We can just change the rules, we can change the way the icons look, and as soon as we click on OK, then what happens is we are getting all these values, right? Cross, that means they are less than 400. For more than 400 it's like this. So let us just change a rule, because we are not getting any kind of a correct tick. So it is from 400 till say 450, and from 450 to whatever it is, we can just click on OK. So we have got this tick for 498 value. So this is how you can just change the rules. This is how you can apply conditional formatting over the matrix, and this is very similar to a table. Suppose instead of icons you wanted to apply data bars, you can just click on and the data bars would be applied to your data. Basically working with a table and a matrix is same. Everything that you could do with a table you can easily do with a matrix, and just as we saw in the table, we can apply each and everything in the matrix as well. Now suppose you are not happy with the way this matrix looks and you want to change its theme. So for that purpose, you can just go to this view tab, and there are these some themes given to you which you can work on, or you can just change for the current theme. Like you can go to customize current theme. Suppose you can just go to text and you can just change its size to say 20, and you can click on apply. Now what happens is, by default the size of the matrix, the text size would be 20. You can just show these grid lines over here, and anything that you want, you can just work with it. Or if you want to just change the way it is looking, like the column headers you want to change, you can just go and change its background color, say blue, and then you can see it is applied. So that is how what is the use of a matrix, and that's how you can create and format a matrix in Power BI. That's all in this video. Thanks for watching.